सो यस, हेलो, गुड इवनिंग गाइस। सो जीडी स्टार्ट करने से पहले कुछ रोल्स बता दूं मैं आपको। तो टोटल आपको टॉपिक दिया जाएगा 3 मिनट्स थिंकिंग, देन 12 मिनट्स ऑफ जीडी, जिसमें आपको कंक्लूजन भी इंक्लूड करना है, ठीक है। एंड कोई भी पॉलिटिकल इनकरेक्ट स्टेटमेंट या रिलीजियस कोई भी कंट्रोवर्सी हो सकती है, ऐसा स्टेटमेंट मत देना। और उस दायरे में रहकर ही, उस टॉपिक के दायरे में रहकर उसके रिलेटेड जो फैक्ट है, फैक्चुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन के साथ ही अपनी जीडी एकदम अच्छी से कंडक्ट करना।
The parameters to test you would be content, interpersonal skills, leadership, body language, teamwork, creativity, and critical thinking. Are we clear on the parameters?
Yes. Okay, folks. So the topic for today is: should India host 2036 Olympics? It's a national opportunity or a financial burden?
Are we clear with the topic?
Okay, so I would like to start the conversation. I think Olympics is an international event, and from the entire world, almost every country is participating in this event. So it is very helpful for our India to keep the international relations and improve the relations. So I think the Olympics would be hosted by India in 2036.
I would like to counter his point. As much as I understand, Olympics is a multinational event where you'll get to represent yourself in front of many countries and get a chance to host other countries, welcome other countries, and also expose them to our culture. I still feel Olympics will be a financial burden to our economy. India, as we know, is a developing economy. It's not been a fully developed economy. And I feel like we lack the infrastructure and the facilities right now. The best example could be the Cricket World Cup that was held in 2023. The Ahmedabad Stadium, which was our most prized stadium with more than 1 lakh seating capacity, had issues like ceilings were there was leakage in ceilings, the bathroom facilities was not applicable, was not appropriate. So I feel like this would have more bad impact to us than good impact. Furthermore, one last point I would like to say is that throughout these years, for all the countries that have hosted the Olympic Games, it has been reported that they have yet not financially gained from it. So even from the financial perspective, Olympics is not very rewarding.
I would like to add to this point that, as he said, that India is not infrastructurally ready for 2036 Olympics, as we can see that the infrastructure that we have currently, apart from one complex that is Ahmedabad, we do not have a sports infrastructure in the country where we can host all kinds of sports. And we know that being an Olympics, it has to host all kinds of sports, and it includes different type of sports which require different types of infrastructure, which we currently don't have. And one more thing we can add to this is that if we look into our past, how we have fared in all the tournaments or the international competitions that we have held in multinational competitions like the 2010 Commonwealth Games and the other one we held in 1980s. We also held one Asian game. So the games we held at that time, we can see that there were major uproar about discrepancies that happened in the organization of the events. So I think what we can do is we have to improve our structure and our infrastructure strength. We have to open more sports centers. We have to develop the talent so that we can nurture the talent, the raw talent that we have. So I would think it is more applicable for India to put this money and all the financial money into research and infrastructure development.
So I would
Adding
like
on to
to
his
add
point about the
yes.
2010 Commonwealth Game only. So a scam came out. The foot-over bridges were built near the JNN Stadium. They were of very poor quality, and they fell down. The army had to be called in to bring it back up in just 6 days. So many stadiums. Since I live in Delhi, we have many stadiums that held the Commonwealth Game. I have been to them, visited them, and they are in very poor condition. So in the recent viral post, all of you must have seen how JLN Stadium was rented for Diljit's concert and how it was left in such a bad condition that no player was able to furnish it in the future for their planning for their sports, etc. So what I feel is India right now is not ready for hosting Olympics, and as we saw in the 2023 Olympics that was held in Qatar, we saw that it almost required $1 billion. And there was a very dark history behind the curtains that happened. Many people were held hostages, their passports were captured, and they were not allowed to return back home. So,
I guess
I would
I
like
have
to add a
a
point
point
for that
to
I
I'd like to add a point for that, so maybe it can make it stronger. So I'd like to add the point for the development, because as we mentioned, we are a developing nation. So we can take the example of UAE as they are doing for football. They want to create the enlightenment, so they are doing it from the front foot, right? So they are taking the first step to develop it. They are inviting celebrities from all over the world in their leagues. So that can create enlightenment for many sports that we are not, most of the population is not even aware of. So that will help a developing nation.
I would like to counter to that what difference UAE and Qatar and we have is that Qatar and UAE have huge money, oil money, which they can spend on these things. What we are a developing nation, and we need these funds to have it. We have different fields in which we can put this money on, and I think other than that, we also use this money. I think all of you have heard about TOPS. It's a scheme for Olympics. They are Olympic medal contenders. So I think first of all we should use this money to train the athletes to that Olympic and international standard, so that they can perform well internationally and use this money in a more proper way.
But I would like to contradict him. It's I think the more important thing that what is the vision of country to move forward in fitness, in health, and in other terms. For example, let us take the example of Japan or China. How fit they are. So at any point of time, we need to take the step forward, take a risk. So nothing comes free. I know that there may be some infrastructural causes which you have mentioned, and other than Rudra has also mentioned some relational causes also. But I think this is the one step forward to a fit India. We have building a relation with other countries also a point which I think should be taken into care. And the other thing is that if some country has made a loss hosting Olympics, it doesn't mean that everyone will make a loss. I think we should take this opportunity, have a good marketing team, have something that differentiate us. Maybe our rich cultural diversity can be a point. which you can put forward in that maybe people would like more. This is a risk, and I think we should take a risk because in 1992 when India opened the markets for you can say Dr. Manmohan Singh, he opened the market, and as we all know, LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. It was a huge risk, but I think whatever we enjoy today from Pepsi or even this light boards, all these are foreign products, but it helped us to educate and sit there and help us to score good in CAT. So this was a risk which resulted today in our good CAT percentiles and a bright future. I think this Olympics is also an opportunity for us. The people should know that India has grown. People should not know that it is 1947 India, which is degraded and have low money, have slums. They should feel like we have grown ahead, we have the power, we have the caliber, and also now we are not the one who setbacks on opportunity. We are the one who go forward, take risks, and I think this is the opportunity. We should take 100% and visible. We should be visible to the world, and that we are the next growing government.
I would like to just adding one point here. So it is seen that in previous developing to developed countries, what we saw was when a country hits a GDP of per capita GDP of $500, they tend to go towards bakery products. So when they have some amount to spend, they move towards bakery. And when they go from $500 to $2,000 to $2,500 as their per capita GDP, they have money to spend. That is when they go from bakery towards fitness. They go into yoga products, they buy things from that.
So are you telling that what happens in history is what the future is? Do you think that the history doesn't have AI, but the future will have? Maybe the history it was not very creative enough. I think we have the opportunity, and we have even the talent in India.
I'm not talking about the future of it. I'm talking about the disposable income that we have to spend on those fitness products.
I have already taken into account. It's a risk, but we need to take it to move forward.
Okay, Rohan, I totally understand your point. But when it comes to promoting fitness, I see the vision of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's been promoting yoga, and I think it also is a part of our culture. So, firstly, I think that should be something that we should look at because it's a better alternative and a less riskier alternative to hosting Olympics. Talking about representing ourselves, there are a lot of small-scale opportunities compared to Olympics like Commonwealth, Asian Games, where we can take the initiative to host. We can start from a small scale, and maybe when we are fully ready financially, we can recover from such games that we represent ourselves, is where I feel we should move ahead. Right now, we are not fully developed for such decisions.
So, adding to Sagar's point only, I also powerlift. So, I have been in competitions where I can see that the infrastructure that they have, the safety that in regards compared to Europe or US, we do not have that. The basic understanding of fitness is right now not present to people. That comes when the GDP hits a certain level.
I think I would like to contradict you. How many of you know Neeraj Chopra before the Olympics? So I think it's only 2 people out of 20%.
But we knew him through Asian Games, and that's my whole point. He was a gold medalist in Asian Games. We can promote Asian Games. Let's start at a small scale, and maybe when we are ready, finally, we'll move to Olympics. It's a very big step.
So do you think how many years will you be ready? Don't you think taking a risk is a better option than to wait for the right time to move?
I would also like to contradict one of the points you mentioned. It is about the visibility that India is bringing up. The problem is, at present, if you see in the world forums, there's a growing amount of discontent among a lot of people in a lot of countries, especially in the European countries. And one thing they have been targeting is the Indians and how they have been encroaching everything. When we make an Olympics as a sports, we give an opportunity from all of these people from all walks of life to come into India and not only to view sports but also to view our country as a whole. So you have to take into accountability the fact that some of the areas of India that they would be seeing are not going to be pretty ones, and they are going to be broadcasting it all over the world, and they will make a mockery of it because it is in the nature of people to do it.
I would like to counter your point by saying that Olympics is a great opportunity to showcase our soft power and increase it. The discontent among the Europeans for the Indians can be put away by Olympics. We can showcase our talent, our sports talent, and our culture through Olympics, as well as the infra that will be built due to Olympics can be used to further train the athletes, which will be good for the sports of India.
Can I ask Ishan and Bhumika to
contribute?
Actually, I would like to counter the point of finances. India is already equipped with finances. As we all know, recently Prime Minister Narendra Modi has inaugurated the new parliament. The government of India has spent around 100 crores or more on building a new parliament building when it was not that much required. Instead, that money could have been used for promoting these things. Plus, when you mentioned the point of the stadium in Ahmedabad, that problem was more about management and not finances. They did not have the proper management to properly manage the event. That is why the problems occurred.
And I would like to add some point, folks. Let's conclude.
Yeah. So I would like this. Like most of you guys talked about that India being a developing country. So we are not hosting the Olympics right now. As you said, India is a developing country. In the next 5 years, India would be part of a developed country. And at that time, the main, like the stress point for India would be boosting tourism. And Olympics would be a great opportunity to boost the tourism, as well as it would engage audiences from all over the world. So in that, it is not just a financial burden, but it is a great opportunity to make India make the other all the rest of the world have a different view about India instead of just a view of a developing country, which you guys mentioned.
I would like to point to that that the other colleague talks about culture, and as you talk that we can't afford the Olympics burden right now. We can't host. We can't have that infrastructure. But if we talk about holding Olympics in 2036, right? So we have more than 10 years to hold that. And as he talks that tourism and all the things are increasing. So we can develop ourselves if we plan proper in the next 10 years that we can hold the Olympics in our country. And additionally, I would like to say that if we are hosting the Olympics in our India, so all the players, all the coaches from the entire world will come to India, and our players will get an opportunity to collaborate with the coaches, with the players, and learn the new perspectives and new things.
Thanks, folks. I think so. We are done. Time is up. Thank you. Okay, folks. So, when it comes to the technical details of the topic, right? Some of you touch base the right points, but I think so. There is little bit more to it what we could have, touched through. So, let's take first the positives, because here every topic would have some positives, some negatives. So let's first take the positive part. I think so. Rudra, Momika, couple of folks took the opportunity, say, yeah, it's a chance that we should take. So example is Barcelona, 1992 Olympics. It was a very good turnover for Spain, which boosted the economy. It highlighted the tourism in the country. Before that, the tourism was very low. So that was a positive point. Okay, an example. Another thing, I think so. Sorry, I'm a little bad in name. Sagar, you quoted that none of the Olympics or countries got benefit or profits hosting an Olympics. It's not true. UK is an example where they had a profit of almost $1 billion. And that was more from the tourism because of the Olympics. So we might have a chance. Okay, definitely it will help us boost our infrastructure, because definitely we would need to build stadiums. We need to build the infrastructure to host the Olympics. And yes, we are talking about 2036 Olympics, which will give us at least 10 years more, in fact 11 years to host. So we can prep, and this is sufficient time if we want. Right? It will give us an opportunity to create new jobs. Maybe the laborers' jobs, even the management jobs, infrastructure jobs, coaches. There are a lot of opportunities we might have. Okay. Another thing, apart from only cricket, even now we see there is a boost of other sports. We have kabaddi. We have pro leagues there. We have other sports which is picking up. It might give us another opportunity for next 10 years to boost those sports, right? And definitely we can sell our culture. tourism. So that these could be the points, or these could be the things on a positive side, how we can improve, or it could be an opportunity for India. Now let's discuss the cons or the challenges, how it could be a burden as well. So the burden would be, let's again take the example of Athens Olympics or Rio Olympics. Does anybody is aware of like how much expenditure is needed for the Olympics, hosting the Olympics?
More than $1 billion.
It's usually about 12 to 15 billion dollars. So we are talking about a huge sum. So Athens, Rio, they are in debt because of Olympics. So yes, it's a huge risk if somebody takes it, right? As mentioned, underutilized infrastructure, another big challenge. There could be environmental impacts, cutting down the trees just to boost the infrastructure or the buildings, right? So there could be these kind of impact. There could be social impact, moving the slums, moving the people just to make big stadiums and big infrastructure for the sports persons and other tourists to stay. And definitely, I think so the foremost important thing is the execution challenges. Are we ready to execute such a big project of this much of money? There will be scams, there will be challenges. So how can we divert all the amount, all the money in the right direction? So it could be a good opportunity for India, but yes, we need to see how we can manage the funds, how can we manage the infrastructure, and how can we utilize in future. Then only it could be, otherwise it could be a challenge.
Absolutely. So I hope we are now aware what all the pointers could have been included. So if I give a general viewpoint and perspective of the entire group, I think we lagged in the points, right? We're repeatedly talking about few points again and again, and no creative point was, introduced in the discussion. Another point, this time he was kind enough to ask Bhumika and Ishan to pitch in. Bhumika and Ishan, you have to find your place, right? Nobody would be that kind. Now, like Rudra started the GD, but when you start with the GD, you have to support it with few pointers. So there was one point that India would be able to build relationships with other countries, but talk more about it. It is not for the sake of starting that you begin with the group discussion, but you need to contribute to the discussion so that it can be taken forward. Now Sagar came into the picture, he entirely contradicted and he did put all the points together. Buddy, what would you do for the rest of the time? Right? And then you said, my last point is this. You categorically mentioned, this is my last point. That means you're closing your cards, or you're telling the other person, I have no further points. So this is the impression you cannot give. Do you get my point? And Rudra, when you first give the introduction, it is not that you will wait for the conclusion to happen. You have to at least have 2 to 3 interventions in between, right? It cannot happen that, we have spoken once, my job is done, now just let me enjoy the group discussion. Understood? Would you add more, sir?
Yes, so major point तो मैम और सर ने बता दिया है. So the most important point, आई कॉन्टैक्ट. आप लोग हमें देख रहे थे, मॉडरेटर को नहीं देखना होता है, ठीक है? हर कोई हमें देख रहा था एक्सेप्ट यू एंड एक्सेप्ट भूमिका. आप आपस में एक दूसरे को पार्टिसिपेंट देख रहे थे, लेकिन बाकी सब हमें देखकर पॉइंट्स डिस्कस कर रहे थे. तो यार आपको आपस में देखना है. इनफैक्ट जब रुद्र आप भी बोल रहे हो, आप सिर्फ इन्हीं को देख रहे हो, ऐसा नहीं कि दिस वर्सेस दैट है, ठीक है? हाँ ना, बट वो आपको ये आदत में लाना होगा, हैबिचुअल होना होगा कि सबको देखना है. और एक मोमेंट पे तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि एवरीवन वर्सेस रोहन चल रहा है, हर कोई रोहन को ये करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, और इसमें रोहन का इम्पैक्ट ज़्यादा ऊपर दिख के आ रहा है कि वो कैसे गलत है. और इसके पॉइंट बहुत सही थे, सबसे अच्छे पॉइंट्स मुझे रोहन, भले ही दोनों साइड से बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट थे जो सर ने भी बताया, लेकिन रोहन कहीं ना कहीं अपने पॉइंट्स को बहुत सही ढंग से रख रहा था. और जो प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड था कि वो चीज़ को कैसे उसने लेकर आया कि ये बोर्ड से आप कैट का स्कोर, और किस तरह से हम जो पास्ट में नहीं था फ्यूचर में आएगा, ठीक है? तो पास्ट में फेल्यूर है तो फ्यूचर में सक्सेस भी हो सकता है. सो ये चीज़ें प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड यूज़ करो. दूसरा आपने बोला वी आर नॉट रेडी फॉर ओलंपिक नाउ. सो ये नाउ है भी नहीं, 2036 है. तो ये थोड़ा सा कहीं ना कहीं कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट हो रहा था पॉइंट को कि वी हैव टाइम. तो जो गलतियाँ हुई है उन्होंने करी है, हम ज़रूरी थोड़ी कि हम भी करें। तो ये कुछ पॉइंट हो सकते थे जो फेवर में। अगेन जो अगेंस्ट में आप 2004 का ग्रीस का ओलंपिक भी बोल सकते थे, जिन्होंने बाद में फाइनेंशियल काफ़ी बर्डन ये मतलब ये देखा कि उनको फाइनेंशियल बर्डन गया उसके बाद। तो ये कुछ पॉइंटर्स थे। मैं पर्सनली अगर बताऊँ तो यस, आपका जैसे मैम ने बताया, आपने बहुत अच्छा इनिशिएटिव लिया। आउट ऑफ 10 ओनली 1 गर्ल, और आपने उसको चांस दिया। शी ट्राइड 2 टाइम 3 टाइम्स, बट बाकी सब ने अपना पॉइंट रखना ज़्यादा बेटर समझा। बट अगेन आपने उसको अपॉर्चुनिटी में कन्वर्ट किया। वेरी गुड अटेम्प्ट, तो नाइस। अगेन आप लास्ट नाम बताना है, तो आप बस रोहन को, अगेन सेम वही चीज़ हो रही थी, बाकी और किसी को नहीं, बस आप रोहन को अपना पॉइंट जस्टिफाई कर रहे थे। तो कहीं ना कहीं इस केस में आप सामने वाले को हीरो बना देते हो। तो वो चीज़ आपको, बस एक ग्रुप डिस्कशन है, ये ग्रुप में ही होना चाहिए। मॉडरेटर आपके लिए पत्थर है फिलहाल, जब तक वो 12 मिनट है। आपको बस आपस में देखना है और सबको देखना है। जो आपके फेवर में बोल रहे हैं उनको भी देखना है, जो अगेंस्ट है उनको भी बताना है, ठीक है। अगेन जैसे सर ने कहा कि सॉरी मैम ने बोला कि आपको थोड़ा सा स्ट्रांग होना होगा अपने पॉइंट्स में, जो कि कंक्लूड आपने किया, गुड, अच्छा किया। बट कंक्लूजन के बाद आप फिर से उसको क्रॉस क्यों कर रहे हो? नहीं, बट कंक्लूजन मतलब कंक्लूजन होता है, आप भी कंक्लूड करो चाहे तो, बट उसके पॉइंट को लेकर आगे मत उसको कंटिन्यू करो, आप पूरे जीडी को कंक्लूड करो।
नहीं, ऐसा है, जीडी में जरूरी नहीं है एक ही बंदा कंक्लूड करे। एक कंक्लूड करेगा, you will, if you get an opportunity to add something over it, you can repeat. नहीं, you can't repeat. And see again, GD, I would say this was very mild GD. Sometimes it becomes a fish market as well. So उसमें पता नहीं क्या क्या होता है. This was very civilized GD, frankly speaking, right? I have seen much worse. So conclusion में, suppose if Ishan is concluding something, you want to add on it. You added, but again, if you're going contradictory, so it is not a conclusion.
And another point, you never introduce a new point in the conclusion.
Yes.
Conclusion में रुद्र ने एक दो नए पॉइंट्स को पुट इन करने की कोशिश करी थी। कंक्लूजन का मतलब है कि ग्रुप जिस निष्कर्ष पे पहुंचा वो आप बताइए मॉडरेटर को, राइट? वहां पे आप नया पॉइंट इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो तो फिर वो कंक्लूजन
नहीं लग रहा था।
हाउ इज दैट अ कंक्लूजन इफ यू आर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग अ न्यू पॉइंट? दैट मीन्स यू आर टेकिंग द डिस्कशन फॉरवर्ड, दैट मीन्स यू हैव नॉट अंडरस्टूड द टास्क, right? So that shows that you're not clear to what the goal has been given to you. Got that?
अगर उसका एक्सटेंशन लग रहा होता ना तो ये पॉइंट हम नहीं डिस्कस कर रहे थे, बट वो आप लग रहा था फिर से फर्दर पॉइंट को डिस्कस करने की आपने इनिशिएटिव ले लिया। इनफैक्ट जैसे सर ने कहा ये लिटरली फिश मार्केट बनता है, बट यहाँ तो ऐसा हुआ कि रुद्रराज ने शुरू करने के बाद 5 सेकंड के बाद वापस आपने स्टार्ट किया, तब तक तो किसी के पास पॉइंट नहीं थे। तो यार बहुत क्विक होना पड़ेगा, सामने वाला खा जाएगा और लिटरली खा जाएगा। तो आपको बहुत ज़्यादा क्विक होना है, वो पॉइंटर्स को बहुत अच्छे से डिस्कस करो। भले ही आपके पास पॉइंटर नहीं है, आपके लिए बहुत मोर और लेस नया टॉपिक है, तो प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड को यूज़ करो, उस पर किसी के तो पॉइंट को पकड़ो और उस पर अपनी चीज़ें लाओ। नहीं ला रहे हो तो कंक्लूजन ऐसा लाओ ना सॉलिड। ऐसे भी स्टूडेंट हुए हैं जो बस कंक्लूजन के दम पे सिलेक्ट हुए हैं और थ्रू आउट जीडी बोलने वाला नहीं होता है, क्योंकि इररिलेवेंट पॉइंट्स है। तो सिर्फ बोलना ही सब नहीं होता है, 4 लाइनें लेकिन इम्पैक्टफुल है ना, तो उसको बस पेश करो सही ढंग से।
Exactly. Ishan, you try to do that actually.
हाँ, in fact I really liked it. Got a very fresh perspective. Yes, as spoken in the last, you got a point of tourism. In fact, that was a very crucial point of tourism that should have been introduced and talked more about. अब देखो ऐसा ईशान, इतना अच्छा पॉइंट था, अगर आप शुरू में प्रेजेंट करते तो आप ग्रुप को एक डायरेक्शन दे सकते थे सोचने की, क्योंकि ग्रुप कहीं ना कहीं स्ट्रगल करता रहा ऑन द फाइनेंसेस ऑफ द कंट्री, दैट वी आर नॉट इन a good economic state to take this decision up. अब हमारा डिसीजन एक आइडिया पे बिल्ड होता रहा, पैसा नहीं है, पैसा नहीं है। फिर इसने कहा कि थोड़ा तो रिस्क लेना पड़ेगा, फिर सब इसको काउंटर करते रहे, तो कहीं ना कहीं जो बाकी जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्रिएट होती है,
सबसे बड़ा पॉइंट है
राइट, कि जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्रिएट होती है। जैसे सर ने कहा एग्जीक्यूशन किस एक्सटेंट पे होगा, आप क्रिटिसाइज ही कर रहे हो कि नहीं हो सकता, तो मल्टीपल पैरामीटर्स पे आप आंसर को वैलिडेट करो ना, सिर्फ एक पॉइंट पे वैलिडेट थोड़ी करोगे कि पैसा नहीं है। पैसा है भी, पैसा लगा भी दें, बट किस लेवल का एग्जीक्यूशन करेंगे, फिर घोटाले तो नहीं होंगे। अब आपने CWG कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स का एग्जाम्पल दिया था, वहाँ पे हुए थे ऐसा कुछ केसेस। सो आर वी रिपीटिंग, आर वी गोइंग टू रिपीट दैट? व्हाट लेवल ऑफ एग्जीक्यूशन वुड बी देयर, राइट? टूरिज्म इतना इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट था, वो पकड़ा ही नहीं किसी ने, राइट? और अपॉर्चुनिटीज कितनी क्रिएट होंगी ये भी कोई नहीं सोच पाया। तो और अगर नहीं भी सोच पा रहे तो क्या होगा, जब आप एक आंसर पे थोड़ा सा डिस्कशन करोगे तब तो आप सोचोगे, राइट? हुआ क्या कि ग्रुप डिस्कशन करना ही नहीं चाहता था, ऐसा एक इंप्रेशन आया। हो सकता है मे बी आप नए हो, आपका पहला टाइम है, तो हम इस तरीके से आपको जज नहीं कर रहे, बट व्हाट वाज द ओवरऑल इंप्रेशन? आपके कितने इंटरवेंशन आए? भूमिका का एक आया, ईशान का एक आया, वो भी पल्लव के कहने पर। पल्लव नहीं कहता तो भूमिका आप इतने बढ़िया स्पीकर हो के अपॉर्चुनिटी लूज कर दोगे। आप कितना बढ़िया बोलते हो, यू हैव सच गुड प्रेजेंस।
और पल्लव नहीं बोलता तो आप गिव अप कर दिए थे, आप बाद में ट्राई भी नहीं किए।
राइट, अब इसने ट्राई किया ना, इसको भी 3-4 बार इंटरप्ट किया था, बट ही फाउंड हिज वे। राइट, सो यू हैव टू फाइंड योर वे। अभी तो पीपल आर काइंड, आपको कोई ऐसा स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट नहीं मिलेगा बीइंग अ फीमेल। अंडरस्टूड, ऐसा कोई नहीं कर्टसी शो करता।
फ्रेंडशिप हो गई इसलिए आप एक दूसरे को चांस दिए,
राइट,
ऐसा नहीं होगा।
ऐसे जेंटलमैन बिहेवियर 1 या 2 शो करते हैं। रुद्र ने भी एक बार बोला कि बोलने दो, अपॉर्चुनिटी दो बोलने की, बट दैट्स लाइक अ गुड बिहेवियर, दैट्स अ गुड ट्रेड, बट यू माइट जस्ट नॉट गेट। राइट, सो इसका ध्यान रखेंगे। जो राइट इंटरवेंशंस हुए अनुराग के, मल्टीपल टाइम्स आए, पल्लव भी आए। राइट, आप एक पॉइंट पे फिक्सेटेड थे, आपने एक ही बार में सारे पॉइंट बोल दिए। राइट, यू शुड हैव स्पोकन मोर। रुद्र मतलब ने स्टार्ट किया था, जब आप स्टार्ट करेंगे इलैबोरेट करेंगे। राइट, और अगर कोशिश करिए, वैसे तो ठीक है, जिस आपने डायरेक्टली नहीं बोलेंगे कि आई कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट यू।
Exactly.
Right.
That was my point.
Right.
You said twice, I contradict you. It's not a right word. Contradict shouldn't be used. Be polite. Put it in some different manner.
आपको कल कर्टसी का पॉइंट सिखाया था ना मैंने कम्युनिकेशन में। और जब नो बोलते हैं या कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट करते हैं, इसका एक सैंडविच मेथड होता है। जैसे अगर सपोज मेरे एक फ्रेंड कहेंगे कि आप मेरे साथ डिनर पे चलोगे, तो मैं कैसे नो बोलूँगी? नहीं, मैं हाँ भी बोल सकती हूँ, बट अगर मुझे नो बोलना है तो मैं कैसे बोलूँगी? लास्ट टाइम आई वेंट विद यू, आई हैड ग्रेट फन, बट यार आज ऐसा है ना कि माई डॉटर इज़ वेटिंग फॉर मी। येस, नो, बट हम एक प्लान करते हैं और अपन वीकेंड पे मिल रहे हैं ना, तो अपन डिसाइड करते हैं व्हेन कैन वी मीट नेक्स्ट। अंडरस्टूड? सो दिस इज द सैंडविच मेथड वेयर यू फर्स्ट कनेक्ट विद सम पॉजिटिव। कोई तो उसने अगर एक पॉइंट बोला है तो वो जुझारू बंदा है ना, होशियार दिमाग वाला बंदा है, तो रिस्पेक्ट करो ना उसकी विजडम को। ऐसे सीधे बोल दोगे अरे कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट यू इज अ हम्बल वे कि तुझे कुछ नहीं पता, मतलब मैं बताता हूँ। राइट, ये इंप्रेशन जाता है। हो सकता है आपका इंटेंट ना हो ऐसा इंप्रेशन क्रिएट करने का, यू आर too much thinking on your points and you just want to present them, but you could say I can bring another perspective into consideration. Exactly. That the group can consider, that can be taken into consideration and then take the discussion around. फिर क्या किया आपने? उसके पॉइंट को वैलिडेट भी कर दिया, अपना पॉइंट भी इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया, तो वो दिखा कि आप सुन भी रहे हो, आप दूसरे की ओपिनियंस को वैल्यू भी करते हो, पर आपका खुद का एक स्ट्रॉन्ग व्यू पॉइंट और पर्सपेक्टिव है। अंडरस्टूड?
तो आपके वही क्वेश्चन है, और भाई एकदम कंफर्ट जोन में नहीं चले जाना है। स्टार्ट किया है ना, तो आपको बस आपने अच्छा मैंने स्टार्ट कर दिया, अब तो मेरा सिलेक्शन हो ही गया। अब वो इतना कंफर्ट जोन में चले गए थे। तो मैम ने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि अगर बीच में कोई वैलिड पॉइंट है ना, तो आओ बीच में, एंट्री लो। ठीक है,
2 से 3 बार तो बोली।
हालांकि नहीं बोलने वालों का पॉइंट बहुत वैलिड था। हाँ बोलने में बस ये लड़े जा रहा था। हालांकि वो बोले लेते हैं रिस्क, लेते हैं, बट वैलिड पॉइंट नहीं था उसमें।
सब बोल रहे हैं तुझे घुसने के लिए।
अच्छा, अतुल सर के सेशन से कुछ सीखा।
इंडिया 105th में आता है एनालिटिक्स में। प्रीवियस क्वार्टर का जीडीपी लास्ट 5 क्वार्टर से कम था, अगला प्रोजेक्शन उससे भी कम है। फिर लगा कि
और वो वैसा शो भी हुआ कहीं ना कहीं कि वो एक अलग इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है बाकी सबसे अगेंस्ट, और वो जीडी में वो होता है। बट हाँ, पॉइंट वैलिड होना चाहिए। अब ठीक है, आपने थोड़ा प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड यूज़ किया, लेकिन जहाँ पे आप उसको फेवर कर सकते थे, जॉब्स, ग्लोबल रिकग्निशन, देन ट्रैवल, ये टूरिज्म, तो वो चीज़ें नहीं बताइए। आप बोलते हैं रिस्क लेते हैं यार, लास्ट टाइम हुआ, जरूरी थोड़ी अभी हो, ये थोड़ी मतलब
रिस्क पे हमारा बहुत फोकस रहा। अभी अपन बार रिस्क के प्रोनाउंसिएशन की प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, बट हमारा रिस्क पे बड़ा फोकस रहा।
हाँ,
इलैबोरेट करो ना,
करो, हाँ,
बिल्ड करो उस आइडिया को। पॉइंट था
जहाँ वो बोल रहे पैसे का प्रॉब्लम होगा, आप बोलो कि यार जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी भी होगी ना, टूरिज्म से पैसा भी आएगा ना, ग्लोबल रिकग्निशन। सर ने भी बढ़िया एक पॉइंट बोला कि हमारा बस क्रिकेट ही, अदर स्पोर्ट्स को एक इंकरेजमेंट मिलेगा। जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन गया, किसी ने बहुत सही पॉइंट बोला कि जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन गया वो अगेन हो सकता है कि आगे यूटिलाइज हो। कोई तो बोल रहा था आप में से जो फेवर में था, आई डोंट रिमेंबर, आपने बोला है गेस। हाँ, ये भी सही पॉइंट है यार कि जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उसकी वजह से डेवलप होगा, उसका और कई सारे यूटिलाइज। ऐसा नहीं कि ओलंपिक खत्म मतलब सब खत्म, अब तोड़ो सब, कई उसके बेनिफिट होंगे। हो सकता है कि ये चीज़ और आगे ओलंपिक्स रिलेटेड जो स्पोर्ट्स है उसको इंकरेजमेंट है। तो बाकी ओवरऑल जो सही थे पॉइंट हमने बताए, जो प्रॉब्लमेटिक थे वो भी बताए। आपके कोई डाउट्स होंगे तो पूछ लो एक बार।
अगर आप श्योर तो करो, क्योंकि वो एक्चुअली फुटबॉल वर्ल्ड कप की बात कर रहे थे, बट ही यूज्ड इट एज ओलंपिक्स।
अगर कोई फैक्चुअल इन्फॉर्मेशन है वो गलत बोल रहा था, आप करो उसको करेक्ट। इनफैक्ट ये आपका इंप्रेशन सही करेगा। जैसे ये इन्होंने गलत बोला, सर ने वो पॉइंट को पकड़ा, तो वैसे आप अगर पकड़ लेते तो डेफिनेटली आप इन्होंने जनरलाइज कर दिया कि सभी को लॉस होता है, फिर कौन सी कंट्री इनिशिएटिव लेगी यार, सभी को लॉस होगा तो.
Sir, if you like start speaking for a topic, you shouldn't shift to against, right?
यार टेक्निकली वैसा नहीं होता. एक बार आपने फॉर में शुरू किया ना तो यूज मतलब आप भले बात सामने वाले से कन्विंस हो गए, बट अब आप फॉर में रहो तो कहीं ना कहीं आपका पर्सनालिटी ट्रेट बताता है ना कि हाँ.
How to humbly present your point when everyone's trying to speak.
There is आपको फाइट तो मारनी.
There are very good points. Like I wanted to conclude in the way that there is an image thing for Indians that we do face the discrimination that we are not good, but there is a very good feeling that we have the warmth that we do not get it in Europe. Right. So that's a good point that people should have seen if we do conduct the Olympics. The warmth that we present towards them.
तो इसके एक्सटेंशन में बोल देना था जैसे रुद्रराज ने.
You need to, you know,
Quick.
Yeah. Actually, you were given lot of time. Like people were talking for 30 seconds or more. In one
Right.
stretch.
Correct.
I have never seen that happening.
Right.
Can we
Like them between them in between 5 seconds.
You have to find your gap. You have to find your gap. I have another point and begin.
Yes.
Rudra and Sagar, there were 5 seconds का pause था.
हाँ.
Yeah. उसमें कोई 1-2 points shoot करना है.
हाँ.
क्यों? You have a pause, you start.
और बिल्ड करो. अच्छा ज्यादा पॉइंट्स ना हो तो उसका. हाँ जी.
Interrupting someone mid point seems rude. Like when Rudra was speaking, he was presenting it well, and you interrupted with नहीं ये कर नहीं हमारा तो ये point नहीं है, so it seems rude, right? So it will be counted as a negative.
देखो पॉज तो मिलेगा आपको. एग्जैक्टली वो तो निगेटिव होगा कि आप वो बोल रहे हो उसकी बात तोड़ रहे हो, लेकिन एक पॉज तो कहीं तो रुकेगा ना, उसका भी बोलने का स्टाइल.
अब देखो पल्लव के अच्छे इंटरवेंशन से आपका एक पॉइंट था, आपने प्रेजेंट अच्छा किया एक्सेप्ट द आई कांटेक्ट पॉइंट जो विनीत सर ने आपको बोला था. राइट. वो पॉइंट रेलेवेंट था. इसने भी तो बोला है 2 बार आपने. बंगाली बाबू अनुराग मारवाड़ी से जो हाँ राइट. समझ में आ रही. तो आप दोनों ने इंटरवेंशंस ली हैं. रुद्र ने भी आगे पीछे करके 2 जगह पकड़ ली ना अपनी. अब पहला पॉइंट चाहे अनप्रिपेयर्ड था या आप और बिल्ड कर सकते थे तो उसने ही वाज स्मार्ट इनफ, और मे बी उसकी स्ट्रैटेजी थी कि मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा या कंक्लूड करूंगा, वो वी विल डिस्कस लेटर. बट ही कुड आइडेंटिफाई, सागर कुड आइडेंटिफाई. अब जो आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पा रहे, अब देखो कहाँ पे आपको गैप मिल रहा है. 2 इंटरवेंशन तो कम से कम देंगे. ठीक है, 2 तो मिनिमम रखिए. बाकी ज़्यादा ऐसा ना हो कि आप ही ड्राइव कर रहे हैं और अकेले आप ही बोले जा रहे हैं. एवरीबडी हैज़ टू बी टेकन इनटू कंसिडरेशन. बट आपको मिलेगा पॉज,
गैप मिलेगा, वो आपको ढूंढना है. और प्रैक्टिस में रहो यार, थोड़ा करो अगर हो सके तो.
और आप अच्छा डिलीवर तब भी करेंगे जब आपके पास कंटेंट अच्छा होगा. राइट. अभी यस. तो आपका जब मैं कितनी भी अच्छी स्पीकर हूँ, मैं बोल दूंगी तब बढ़िया ना, मुझे पता होगा कि क्या बोलना है. अभी मे भी अगर हम कोई दूसरा टॉपिक दें, हो सकता है यही ग्रुप फिश मार्केट बन जाए या बहुत एजिटेटेड रहे या बहुत इन्वॉल्व हो ग्रुप डिस्कशन पे. अभी प्रोबेबली हो सकता है कि थोड़ा सा इजी रहा ये ग्रुप डिस्कशन बिकॉज वी वर नॉट एबल टू ब्रेनस्टॉर्म मच. बट वो रीडिंग सही आएगा. राइट. आपको पहली क्लास से सिखाया जा रहा है रीड. राइट. वो आपको इंटरव्यू के लास्ट दिन तक करना है.
And guys, one thing is think beyond. Olympics बोलो तो खाली स्पोर्ट्स में मत फंसो. That was a missing part here. Olympics से क्या क्या आ सकता है. So just first think money. That money and infrastructure. उसके लिए क्या होगा? जॉब बनेगी, वेल्थ आएगी, घोटाले भी होंगे. Right? There are lot of things. So think in that direction. लोग आएंगे तो क्या होगा? टूरिज्म हम कर सकते हैं, हम अपनी कल्चरल हेरिटेज को दिखा सकते हैं. We can showcase different things. तो go beyond the topic. Think creative. Otherwise आप खाली ओलंपिक पर अटक गए ना, तो मान लो किसी को स्पोर्ट्स में इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है. लाइक मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा, काम नहीं चलेगा. एंड देयर विल बी टॉपिक लाइक दैट. समटाइम देयर इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट टॉपिक. आप उसका क्या सेंस क्या निकाल रहे हो, put it across. So that is very important.
Any queries? Done?
चलो. थैंक यू टीम. गॉड ब्लेस यू. थैंक यू.
ऑल द बेस्ट. हाँ, सो स्टार्ट करने से पहले, टॉपिक देने से पहले कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट गाइडलाइंस. अगेन आपको 3 मिनट दिए जाएंगे सोचने के लिए टॉपिक देने के बाद. 12 मिनट्स आपका जीडी चलेगा इंक्लूडिंग कंक्लूजन. टोटल 12 मिनट्स. एंड अगेन जो भी आपके पॉइंट्स है वो फैक्चुअल मतलब प्रूफ होने चाहिए उसके पीछे, और कोई भी रिलीजियस या कल्चरल या पॉलिटिकल इनकरेक्ट स्टेटमेंट या कंट्रोवर्शियल बात मत करना, ठीक है?
And the parameters to test you would be content, communication, leadership, body language, teamwork, creativity, and critical thinking. Are we clear on the parameters? So you can give the topic.
After the end of the 3 minutes where we are allowed to think ourselves, will you say that now you can start? Or
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, folks.
Are we required to keep our hands up if we want to go next?
You could raise the hands in case you are not getting the right time to intervene. In case if you get the pause, you can get into the discussion directly.
Okay, folks. So the topic for today is the future of automobile industry in India, EV versus fossil fuel. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'd like to start this topic, which have been given, which is the future of automobiles in India, EV versus fossil fuels. For the EVs, I like to say that there are two Indias: the grinding middle class and the developed and the people who live in the developed metropolitan cities. And mostly the grinding middle class, they live in the tier 2, tier 3 cities where the income is average, and so I believe that they would prefer to buy the less costly vehicles which run on CNG and fossil fuels, enabling them to not spend too much capital on procuring those vehicles and maintaining them properly. And the problems of not having too many charging ports everywhere, and also the high cost of EVs, even though the government is providing subsidies, but still the prices are high. And then I feel that it is something more which the premium class of people are attracted to, because it gives them this angle of sustainability, and hence that is the thing for EV. And as for the fossil fuels, I believe that as the time is progressing, now we have seen the BS6 norms which have come into place, and so there will be more refinement in the engines, more development there, which will enable less pollution. And also it is the sound factor which we have, that yes, the vroom of the diesel engines and all that, and the more torque, which is more appealing to the Gen Z and the young audience. So as you can see that these are two opposite poles of thoughts right now, and where we can collaborate and bring them to the middle ground is the hybrid engines, where they give a proper fuel economy. I have seen many vehicles which give very nice fuel efficiency for that, and that I believe that should be the middle ground for India as of now and in the next 20-30 years, so that both the middle class and the higher class can come together and live in.
So talking about the future of automobile industry in India, I believe EV will play a key role in driving this industry. So according to the International Energy Agency, 36% of energy production is already being done from renewable sources. And according to the United Nations report, we need to reduce our carbon emissions by 45% just to limit our global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. So clearly the shift is happening and the situation is dire, and it is the need of the hour. And I believe the concept of EVs is not just a marketing hype, but due to the inculcation of AI, it is a very systematic shift, which can also be seen in the rise of AI stocks.
I like to that there is pros and cons of each one of them. There are some pros of EV as well as some pros of fossil fuel automobile industries as well. If I say that the speed limitation currently, the racing cars and racing bikes, the EV currently doesn't supporting them. So developments are taking place each minute, I would say, and in the near future we'll definitely see that also. But currently I thought that immediate action is not about that. EV will definitely take the place of fossil fuels in nearly upcoming 4 to 5 years. But in the long term, yes, definitely EV is a key player.
I'd like to support
counter your point by saying that you mentioned the speed part. Teslas, as you know, have great speeds and all that. I feel it's more about the economic disparity which is currently in India. People may even they can take loans and buy the vehicles, but what are charging ports? What are the batteries and all? So we need to have a lot of R&D on that, and the better vehicles which are like produced in China or in America, we need to lower the taxes on them so that they can come and sell their products here. And if we want them to have this Make in India initiative and all that, so yes, the government needs to have some leniency.
Yeah, actually my point is also on your side. I am saying that in the long term, these things are going to take place, and really India is going to accomplish these goals in a long term. These are not the immediate actions that India would take.
Guys, I think I'm very sorry to interrupt, but to respect the time limit, let's just structure our thoughts so that we can go ahead in different perspectives. So the structure that I could think is, we can compare the two dimensions in three major ways. Like, we can study the economic aspect, we can study the environmental aspect, and the technological aspect. And I would like to support what you said in terms of why EVs would be the future. For the economic aspect, I would like to counter what you mentioned, that obviously upfront it looks like that EVs are costly, but when you analyze the whole total cost of it, so like when you say TCO technically, so TCO of EVs is net less than what an IC engine vehicle would look like. Another thing, even if you see global economies or government subsidies, that also supports EV adoption more than that. Moving on to environmental aspect. For environmental aspect, obviously, there are many things that Gen Z likes and considers to be cool, but it's not great for the future generations. So we should consider with the low emissions, the loss of noise pollution that we are getting through EV adoption. And thirdly, we can see in the direction of technological advancement. Obviously, we should see that this is a completely new dimension for innovation that we are developing, rather than considering the traditional way of the IC engine that have been in the market from decades and decades. So I would like to go ahead with that.
Should keep in mind that the lithium batteries which are used in EVs also causes pollutions, because we need huge chunks of lithium batteries, and that will create an impact in pollution as well.
For that, we have got hydrocarbons. But yeah, EV, I would like to counter what he earlier said, that EVs, the middle class suffer to buy the EV vehicles as they are costly. Well, that is because not many players are right now producing EV vehicles. As the time progresses, more players will enter into the market, and eventually the price will go lower. And also many companies are also developing the power stations for the feasibility of the people. But yeah, the concern regarding EV is the hydrocarbon emissions. So that is a concern. Yeah.
I think I would like to address. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. I think I would like to address the elephant in the room, that why we are heading towards an EV when we have this option of fossil fuel vehicles. Why we are heading towards an EV. So the basic thing behind this is that it is sustainable. It is uplifting the sustainable development that we are heading towards. It has the benefits of environmental protection that we are aiming towards. So as my friend, he rightly categorized it into 3 points, that we need to look it in 3 terms. That is the environmental aspects. Of course, EV wins over there, because but otherwise we can also consider that most, as my friend rightly said, that most of the electricity that is generated in India, it is from the non-renewable resources. So that is one point that we need to look into, to make it into 100% or maybe nearly 80% non-renewable sources of energy, so that we could produce electricity, and electric vehicles could be 100% environment friendly. That is one point. Then coming to the economic thing, I believe it requires a huge capital, and we need to develop a whole ecosystem for providing even the mid-size families, the mid-income families, this EVs. And for that, we also need to have good trade relations with China, which is the biggest electric battery producer. And coming to the third point, that was the technological advancement. I believe the max range of any EV, in my point, I'm not sure about the data, but it is 800 kilometers that it can drive in one battery, if I'm wrong.
You guys may correct me. So we have to again change the battery after 800 hours, 800 kilometers of drive. So I think the hybrid model helps us to get both the things. Fossil fuel, that it could give us the longer rides, and we could even eventually turn into a pure EV model. So I think we can substantially get into the EV model, but we need to address what the concerns are. So of course, the renewable energy part, the cost part, we can do it by having good trade relations. And of course, the technological part, we need to first move to the hybrid one, and then we can move to the pure EV.
I believe what we're witnessing right now is barely the uprise of EV, right? We do not have a sufficient infrastructure built in India. We barely have enough subsidies that we can expect. So the fact that we're even considering moving to an EV is a big win for EV industry, because in the coming times, as we see, as global warming is taking place, as energy shift is taking place, more and more subsidies will be coming from the government side. We'll have a better infrastructure, so the accessibility to EV will also increase drastically. So I think the fact that we're even considering a shift to EV now is a big win, and it is definitely going to change the automobile industry.
Let's just hear the opinions of everyone, and so that we can quickly
I'd
move
like
to conclusions.
Take this opinion of yours into consideration, is that while we are considering the importance of sustainability in the automobile industry, what we are forgetting to consider is that the vehicles that have the lowest mileage and have probably one of the highest consumption of fossil fuels in this country are transport vehicles which travel on long distances, carry heavy goods. Is the EV industry targeting that? The daily industry, the regular users who are working in cities will prefer EVs, but is there any chance of growth for EVs in long-term transport? Because those vehicles consume the largest amount of petrol or give the lowest mileage.
Yeah, actually, but some transport services, you are mentioning goods transport, but not so. But the buses, the bus recently Delhi launched some of the.
No, sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'm not saying the buses. I'm saying that vehicle, the the trucks, the 18-wheelers which transport cars across cities.
Yeah.
These are still running on fossil fuels, and these vehicles they have such low, terrible mileage. So even for the amount of distance they're traveling, they're consuming a large amount of fossil fuels as well, right? And well,
if we consider trucks, I think we can agree that the biggest problem that trucks are facing currently is the brake issue, right? The brakes in trucks are supposed to be not this week at least. So clearly trucks also need a transformation, and like my friend mentioned here, the shift of buses into EV, like there's this I'm forgetting the name, but there's this France based company that has launched a EV, electric vehicle bus service. So if we can go into buses, we can definitely go into trucks.
yeah, metropolitan cities are taking a positive initiative towards ensuring that public transport is mostly now powered by electrical vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's a good positive initiative that is being taken. But
I did
just-
not understand the perspective of your braking system, why it was brought into the discussion. That really confused me. But yes, I'd like to build upon an idea that yes, I agree that the heavy vehicles, for example, the JCBs, the Caterpillars, the construction, the things that do the construction works, yes.
So my point was that trucks definitely need a transformation, right? The braking issue is definitely causing accidents, and it is still causing accidents. We don't have any solution here because the brakes cannot be that powerful that we need them to be. So
Let's conclude.
So we definitely need an innovation there.
So can I add one thing?
Let's conclude. I'm saying I'm giving you 2 minutes to conclude.
So before we conclude, I'd like you guys to take this into consideration that while we are considering the sustainability of fossil fuels over the long term, we have to know that heavy earth metals are also quite limited in nature. EV technology needs to evolve more because we can't always rely on lithium ion batteries to sustain us. And discarding these lithium ion batteries are a lot, they are quite the chemical pollution and the ground pollution that occurs from discarding electrical waste is still quite harmful and leads to a lot of damage to the biomes around them.
So that's the thing, that we are in a developing stage of EV.
Yeah.
That there will be things that will change with time. We will improve in the technology, and not today only the EV can come into the main role. Yeah, as everyone said, that we will need time. We have to go from fossil fuels to hybrid because we have to look in a long run as well. All the meetings and global level are for sustainable development. We can't just be like, okay, let's use fossil fuels because we want that boom and Gen Z things and all those. Yeah, we are starting to revolute. We are using EV. We have to hybrid it, and then eventually we have to minimize the use of fossil fuels and have to give a boom to the EV company. So
So I guess
That's
it.
the
And,
thing.
yeah,
And
so
in my humble opinion, I would like to say that instead of the topic EV versus fossil fuel vehicles, we should rather say that journey of transformation from fossil fuel vehicles to EV vehicles, and even to further better technologies,
Further
as
better,
you
yeah.
mentioned. Yeah.
Right, I completely agree. EV cannot 100% replace fossil fuels, obviously, but it is definitely a step forward.
Well, who knows? Something new technology might come into play.
Yes.
And EV all together.
Okay, folks. Perfect. Pretty decent discussion, I guess. So, folks, you have covered quite a decent points, I would say here, and we tried to see three aspects primarily: environmental, economical, and technical. Right, which is a good thing. I think so. You minded it pretty well, Harshal. But a challenge what happened is, as Harshal binded the topic into these three categories, you were never able to think out of it. Finally, I'm sorry, I'm missing the names here. I'm really sorry because I was not able to note down your names, guys. But Gaurav. There are a couple of good points, like especially the long transports, trucks. It's very hard to convert to EVs because buses is partially possible till some extent because it is internal the city. But when we talk about trucks, we are going to travel thousands of kilometers. It's not even in hundreds. So do you think is it viable that truck will take a pit stop after all 200 or 300 kilometers max? And then they need to charge the batteries. And again, it's not the car battery, it's a truck battery, which will be like much more powerful and much more wattage. And then continue the journey. It's very hard. It's very uneconomical for the transport owners. So that was a good point. Another good point, what you brought is the lithium.
We introduced it.
Yeah.
Branch introduced it.
So that was good. So, but yeah, let me give some pointers here. So you are in pretty decent direction with those three main criteria of environment, tech and economy. Absolutely. But we should also consider a couple of few more points which can be done. Government subsidies. EV have that pretty much big edge. Absolutely, the initial cost of EV is expensive, but government subsidies counter that and you get the benefits, right? Low running cost. EV is way low running cost. So in the economics, this is one point I did not hear from anyone.
Sir, I had mentioned that the net TCO is less, and also about the government subsidies in the in the economic part.
Fine. EV give us absolutely the tech advancement, and there are a lot of opportunities which we cannot get, or which is very hard to get from the fossil fuel vehicles or the conventional vehicles, because the integration in EV is way easier as compared to the fossil fuel vehicles, right? But in India, definitely the challenges of EV will be the charging infrastructure. Even now we don't have that much good. You can't plan a long journey of 500 kilometers from EV. It's very hard, right? So that is one thing. Battery replacement. We are not in that phase yet. That will come in next 4 to 6 years. And then the cost, the battery replacement things and environment impact of disposing the battery will come into picture. So that needs to be considered, right? Fossil fuel. First benefit of fossil fuel, as he said, truckers, long driving range. That gives you an edge. I can take my car and I can drive for 600 kilometers in one, once I fill my tank. But I can't do that with EV. So that is one pros you should clearly mention, I would say here. Definitely, it's not the key point, another point is the job opportunities. So I think so in an interview I discussed this point also. You have hundreds of roadside vendors who fix cars, service stations, but getting those for EVs is not easy. You can take your car to a roadside vendor and can you fix it? Can you do this? This noise is coming. Ye khat khat ki awaaz aa rahi hai. Kya ho raha hai? Can you do that with your EV? You won't. You will go to your service station only and then you will get it fixed. So There with EV, yes, there will be challenges with the jobs, especially the small mechanical jobs. Also, making a fossil fuel vehicle is like very complex. So many components, so many parts. Anything can go, like किसी में कुछ भी problem आ जाता है कभी भी. But in EV, very less components. It's the motor, it's the battery, it's the control unit primarily. So these are the things. But you covered environmental impact of the fossil fuels, all those things. So it's pretty decent. One last point I would like to say here is hybrid. We got a point somewhere like we should transition from fossil to hybrid to EV. Sounds good, but one thing to say is making EV is way easier than making a hybrid technically. Most difficult is to make a hybrid car. So the transition from fossil to hybrid to EV is way difficult than moving or switching directly to EV. Technically again.
Sir, I actually wanted to take your opinion on this perspective that I had. I remember reading this once that people do deter from buying automatic vehicles or electric vehicles because they feel like they take away from my autonomy of driving, which is a huge psychological component when buying a vehicle for yourself.
Actions is changing. I was a one guy, I can tell you my experience. I always love my manual vehicle. But when I'm driving in Delhi, automatic vehicle helps me a lot.
Same here.
Likewise.
Same here.
No, I do agree with you. I just wanted to think because... No, I do agree with you. I just wanted to think because I remember reading this in a RC passage only.
But again, yes, if you ask me for some event, I would love manual drive. It gives me power. You know, I know when I want to overtake, I can put up gear 2 and I can rush my vehicle like this. In automatic vehicle, it's hard. But when you are driving in a traffic, automatic vehicle helps like anything. Again, we are switching the topic here from manual drive to automatic drive. But yes, so it's a switch of mindset, it's a change of mindset which will come eventually if you have the right infrastructure set up here.
सो वो एक पॉइंट और मैं ऐड करूँगा इसमें, सर ने जो बताया, सर ने वैसे टेक्निकल पॉइंटर सारे ऐड किए, बट एक लॉन्ग चार्जिंग टाइम भी एक है जो हम कॉन्स में बोल सकते थे. ठीक है, तो बाकी तो सर ने ऑलमोस्ट सारे पॉइंट ऐड किए, बट मैं थोड़ा सा बात करूँगा एक जनरल आप लोगों की परफॉर्मेंस की. तो अभिज्ञान ने जब स्टार्ट किया यार 3 मिनट कम से कम 2.5 से 3 मिनट वो बोलता रहा, कोई इसको कॉन्ट्रेडिक्ट ही नहीं कर रहा है. नो वन हैज स्टॉप हिम और इंटरवेन इन बिटवीन. तो ये नहीं होना, इतना हम मतलब हम्बल नहीं होना कि यार हाँ बोल भाई तू पहले रुक जा फिर मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा. तो नहीं, बीच में आना है. ऐसा नहीं कि कोई स्टार्ट करेगा तो अब इसको बिल्कुल छोड़ ही नहीं सकते हो जब तक उसका पूरा खत्म ना हो. तो यार बहुत देर तक वो बोलता रहा, मतलब एक मोमेंट पे लग रहा था इंटरव्यू चल रहा है बस अभिज्ञान के साथ, बाकी सब ऑडियंस है. तो हाँ,
हाउ डू वी स्टॉप और व्हेन समवनस ऑन अ रोल?
राहुल ने पकड़ा ना,
एक पॉज मिलेगा हमेशा.
राहुल आपने नेक्स्ट लिया था ना, तो राहुल ने भी तो पकड़ा ना गैप, आपको भी ढूंढना है. बाद में हर्षिल ने बहुत सही जीडी को एक ओवरऑल इंटरेक्शन बनाया. हर्षिल के इंटरवेंशन के पहले हर कोई बस हमें बता रहा था, हमें अपने पॉइंटर्स प्रूव कर रहा था, आपस में ग्रुप डिस्कशन हो ही नहीं रहा था. ठीक है, हर कोई मतलब हर एक का पॉइंट, मतलब जो आई कांटेक्ट था हमारे तरफ था सिर्फ. बाद में हर्षिल ने जब वो पॉइंटर्स बताया और फिर आप सबने एक दूसरे से डिस्कशन स्टार्ट किया, फिर काफ़ी अच्छे पॉइंटर्स आए. इनफैक्ट स्टार्ट अच्छा था आपका, बट प्रॉब्लम अभिज्ञान से नहीं, प्रॉब्लम आप लोगों से कि आपने इतना क्यों बोलने दिया. उसको तो मौका मिलेगा, बोलेगा.
और उसके पास थे पॉइंट्स, वो बोलता गया.
राइट.
फॉर मी मैक्स 30 सेकंड्स.
करेक्ट.
उसके ऊपर कोई जा रहा है तो रोको. How you can go beyond that?
और एटलीस्ट 2 से 3 इंटरवेंशंस देने हैं आपको. आप तो कई बार लोग एक में सिमट गए. अब जैसे अफ्तांश के पास लिथियम बैटरीज का पॉइंट था, अरे बिल्ड करो, आपने इतना अच्छा पॉइंट दिया ग्रुप को, आपने बिल्ड ही नहीं किया. आपने एक पॉइंट बोला और फिर आप बैठ गए आराम से. उस पर बिल्ड करते और फिर वो एंड में गौरव ने एडवांटेज ले लिया कि भाई लिथियम बैटरीज को आप डिकम्पोज कैसे करोगे, वो भी तो एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है. प्रदोष, आपके आइडियाज अच्छे एग्जीक्यूट हुए थे. आप एक रिलेशनशिप, ये कौन लेकर आया था कि हमारे चाइना के साथ ट्रेड रिलेशंस होने चाहिए क्योंकि वहाँ से बैटरीज आएंगी. सो दैट वाज अ यूनिक पॉइंट. अभिज्ञान, यू हैव टू टेक अ लुक एट द एंटायर ग्रुप. हमारे साथ आपका कोई रोल नहीं रहेगा. मॉडरेटर इज नॉट,
कोई रोल नहीं.
एंड आई थिंक इन द बिगनिंग एवरीबडी वाज एड्रेसिंग अस. यू आर नॉट सपोज्ड टू एड्रेस अस, यू आर देयर इन द ग्रुप. सो व्हाट आर अदर पीपल फॉर व्हेन यू आर एड्रेसिंग. अनिकेत, आपने कंक्लूजन में पकड़ लिया. यहाँ पे भी गाड़ी छूट जाती तो आप तो पूरे जीडी में बोल ही नहीं पाते, राइट? आपने इन everybody, I must say, sir, everybody is a इज गुड विद कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स. जो आपने सबने जो डिमीनियर और बिहेवियर शो किया बहुत बढ़िया, आपका बहुत अच्छा था, आप बहुत अच्छे से एग्जीक्यूट कर रहे थे. बट द आइडिया है जब आप इतने अच्छे स्पीकर हो और बोल ही नहीं रहे हो तो फिर आपको पॉइंट कैसे दें हम, राइट? और पॉइंटर्स थे आपके पास, ऐसा नहीं है कि आप कहीं में पिच इन कर लीजिए, किसी आइडिया को बिल्ड कर लीजिए. हर बार एक यूनिक पॉइंट लाना ग्रुप में ज़रूरी नहीं है. कई बार आप एग्जिस्टिंग पॉइंट को एड्रेस करते हो, बिल्ड करते हो, उसके अराउंड कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स देते हो, सब्सटैंशिएट करते हो, या मे बी दूसरे वर्ड्स में ही प्रेजेंट करो, बट अपनी प्रेजेंस तो फील कर पाओ, राइट? गौरव, आप न्यू पॉइंट लेकर आए जैसे सर ने कहा, सो दैट्स रियली कमेंडेबल. उसके बाद हर्षिल, आप तो बहुत ही रैशनल पर्सपेक्टिव लेकर आए, बहुत फ्रेशनेस लेकर आए, एंड द इम्प्रेशन दैट would come is a person with good mindset, positivity, who's encouraging everybody.
इनफैक्ट मॉडरेट भी कर रहा था.
बिल्कुल.
अभी हम फटाफट एक सबको बोलने दो, फिर हम कंक्लूजन की तरफ जाते हैं.
राइट. एंड आप राहुल का एक बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट था सर. कोई भी दूसरा स्पीकर जब बोलता था तो राहुल बहुत एक्टिव लिसनिंग डेमोन्स्ट्रेट कर रहा था. बाय योर बॉडी लैंग्वेज, यू वर नॉडिंग, यू वर लुकिंग एट द अदर पर्सन. आप में से कई लोग नीचे देखने लग जाते थे जब कोई स्पीकर बोल रहा था. कुछ लोग देख रहे थे बट कुछ इधर उधर डिस्ट्रैक्टेड थे. बट ही वॉज कंटिन्यूसली, और एक बोलता उसकी तरफ देखता, उसको अच्छा अश्योरेंस देता, फिर दूसरे की तरफ देखता. सो दैट वॉज रियली नाइस. दैट शोज दैट यूर एन एक्टिव लिसनर, राइट? और ब्रेक्स का पॉइंट मुझे थोड़ा सा समझ में कम आया. मे बी मेरी कोई टेक्निकली लिमिटेशन है.
आपने स्टैटिस्टिकल फिगर्स के साथ कुछ तो अपना पॉइंट रखा ना, वो अच्छा किया.
एग्जैक्टली. सो दैट वाज द बिग पॉइंट. यू हैव द फैक्ट्स विद यू.
राइट.
बहुत पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट है.
राइट. और आपको जब भी एक पॉइंट को बिल्ड करना है, आपको कोई नया पॉइंट भी इंट्रोड्यूस करना है, तो आप ये तो रिफ्लेक्ट करिए कि आपने प्रीवियस वाले स्पीकर का पॉइंट सुना है और फिर अपने आइडिया को कनेक्ट करिए. दैट कैन बी इन क्विक 3-5 वर्ड्स. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको 2 सेंटेंसेस वहीं पे वेस्ट कर देने हैं, बट कहीं तो अग्रीमेंट शो करिए. और जब आप अग्री भी नहीं कर रहे तभी भी आपको एक हम्बल तरीके से स्विच करना है. कई बार वो स्विच एकदम से कनेक्शन नहीं इस्टेब्लिश कर पाता. ट्रांजिशन, remember transition words, so that transition has to be smooth even if you are building on the idea or even if you are disagreeing, right? Show some connection that shows that you're giving respect to the other speaker. You have also shown your ability to listen well, right? और यतन आप रीड करने लग गए, मतलब कि बस अच्छे पॉइंट्स थे पर एक पॉइंट के बाद हमें इंप्रेशन आया कि आप रीड कर रहे हो. आप पॉइंट पढ़ लो, फिर सबको देखो, आई कॉन्टैक्ट एस्टैब्लिश करो और फिर उस पॉइंट पे इलेबोरेट करो. पॉइंट्स थे आपके पास बहुत सारे, आपने गुड 15-20 सेकेंड्स अपने पॉइंट्स प्रेजेंट करें, पर वो पॉइंट्स को जो प्रेजेंट करने का तरीका है वो इफेक्टिव हो सकता था, राइट? कई बार हम नोट्स इसलिए बनाते हैं दैट दे शुड सपोर्ट अस, बट नोट्स से रीड नहीं करना. हमने भी बना रखे हैं नोट्स, बट देन यू कैन पिक द पॉइंट एंड देन बिल्ड ऑन इट. तुषार, आपका एग्जीक्यूशन अच्छा था, आपने 2 बार इंटरवेंशन किया, तो बोथ द टाइम्स वेरी लॉजिकल एंड गुड डिमीनर एंड पर्सनालिटी.
बट फर्स्ट टाइम आई कांटेक्ट हमारे तरफ था, सेकंड टाइम बाकी आपने किया. अगेन यतीन, आपने भी मतलब ऐसा लग रहा था ना कि बस बोलना था, कुछ तो एक पॉइंटर मुझे देना है इसलिए दिया, बट आप उसको जस्टिफाई नहीं किए. मतलब ऐसा लगा कि हाँ ये है, हाँ, बट अगेन आपने कोई तो फ्यूल इज अ चैलेंज और बस छोड़ दिया उसको, ओपन स्टेटमेंट बोलकर छोड़ दिया. बट आप किस फेवर में हो वो पता नहीं चला लास्ट तक, या एग्जैक्ट आपके पॉइंटर्स, मतलब मैं तो भी कन्विंस नहीं हुआ कि आप बोलना क्या चाहते थे एग्जैक्ट. मे बी शायद मैम ने जो बोला वो रीज़न होगा कि आपने बस वो पढ़ लिए, तो वो आप उसको सही से फ्रेम नहीं कर पाए. दूसरा यार, कहीं ना कहीं मुझे भी लगता है, शायद सर आप भी इससे रिलेट कर रहे होंगे, कि एक बार कंक्लूजन जब बोल दिया जाता है ना, तो गौरव आप उसको ये नहीं कर सकते हो फिर से कि मेरे पास और कुछ पॉइंट्स है, प्लीज मैं बोल दूं क्या. और कहीं ना कहीं मैं कंक्लूजन से तो कन्विंस नहीं हूँ, कि मुझे नहीं लगा कि फाइनली आखिरी तक कंक्लूजन हुआ है. इनफैक्ट आपने बोला अनिकेत, बट वो कंक्लूजन नहीं लग रहा था, वो आप उन्हीं के स्टेटमेंट को आगे और एक्सटेंड कर रहे थे या काउंटर कर रहे थे, इस टाइप में लगा. तो कंक्लूजन से तो बिल्कुल कन्विंस नहीं हूँ मैं. मतलब मुझे फाइनल आखिरी एंड तक, जीडी के एंड तक नहीं पता चला कि कंक्लूजन हो भी गया है. फाइनली टाइम हुआ, सर ने रोक दिया. तो ये चीज़ नहीं होनी चाहिए. कंक्लूजन का शुरुआत एकदम प्रॉपर लगना चाहिए कि मैं अच्छा चलो मैं फाइनली कंक्लूड कर रहा हूँ, इसी से बोलकर शुरुआत करो.
और कंक्लूजन में नया पॉइंट नहीं ऐड करोगे,
ओवरऑल पर्सपेक्टिव पूरा.
और कंक्लूजन में जितने तुम सबके पॉइंटर्स इंक्लूड करने की कोशिश करोगे उतना बढ़िया कंक्लूजन होगा.
हाँ,
राइट.
कुछ लोगों ने कहा, कुछ ने वो कहा, सारे पॉइंट्स, बस अपना ही नहीं बताना कि मैंने ये सोचा है.
राइट, ठीक है.
आपके कोई क्वेश्चंस?
नहीं, बट अदरवाइज इट वाज वेल एग्जीक्यूटेड. मतलब यू
I'm disappointed on the first one, like he was ongoing.
3 minutes, almost 2.5 minutes.
वो मुझे बस एक चीज कम पसंद आई conclusion?
और गौरव इनफैक्ट यार आपका भी 2 बार आपने इंटरवेन मतलब होने की कोशिश की, बट पहली बार चलो होता है, दूसरी बार भी किसी ने आपको सॉरी बोल दिया, बोले हाँ ठीक है कंटिन्यू, मतलब इतना हम्बल भी नहीं होना है, ठीक है। हर बार आपको अभी लकीली काफी अच्छा चांस मिल गया, फिर भी आपको आपका पॉइंट रखने को, आपका पॉइंट बहुत अच्छा था, बट इन केस मेन जीडी में नहीं मिलता ना, एक बार हो गया, सेकंड टाइम अपना ओपिनियन रख दो इन हम्बल वे, ठीक है। बट इतना थर्ड टाइम भी कोई आता, आप बोलना शुरू करते, कोई आता और आप उसको चांस दे रहे हो तो पड़ेगा। हाँ, ये जीडी में थोड़े रूल लगे, आपको हम्बलनेस भी दिखानी है, साथ में थोड़ा एग्रेशन भी दिखाना, हंगर भी दिखानी है कि मेरे पॉइंट्स यार मेरे को बताना है विद इन दिस, मेरे पॉइंट्स यार मेरे को बताना है विद इन दिस टाइम स्पैन।
मैं ask something. Yes. जैसे you said कि I went on for 3 minutes. मैंने लिख लिया था, तो I just thought कि like I will just tell everything. It's not negative on you.
It's negative for others. I'm talking about rest of 8.
मैं तो मेंशन भी किया कि आपके लिए निगेटिव नहीं है, प्रॉब्लम इन लोगों के साथ हुआ, प्रॉब्लम इन लोगों के साथ हुआ।
Stop until you are been cut through. So simple. आप तो बोलते जाओ, आप 8 मिनट बोलते जाओ ना, जब कोई रोक ही नहीं रहा तो बोलो।
तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है,
क्या दिक्कत है?
आप तो हीरो आप तो हीरो।
Actually, I also had one question. At the end, I said that we should move from fossil fuel vehicles to EV, and all were convinced. So I said that instead of topic EV versus fossil fuel vehicles, we should say that it's the journey of transformation from fossil fuel vehicles to EV. So was it correct to change the topic or?
नहीं, topic change तो नहीं, it's a perspective and.
So again, as ma'am was saying, this is a perspective. It's absolutely correct, and this is what is happening, and this will happen. ये कोई overnight switch नहीं होगा. Now, if you go to the past again, अब technical बात करें तो महिंद्रा की गाड़ी आई थी E2O, I guess, if I'm not wrong, which was like very low cost electric vehicle for 2 people, and 2 बच्चे पीछे बैठ सकते थे, and this was launched in sometime in 2001 or something. Very old car. So EV तो तब से चल रहा है होने को तो, but it was never launched in such a scale. But now you see the low range car, आपका टाटा पंच, नेक्सॉन, महिंद्रा की सब गाड़ियाँ EV में आने लग गई हैं। कितनी कॉस्ट है उनकी? कोई 20-25 लाख थोड़ा ही है। So ये चेंज तो आएगा, ये ड्रिफ्ट आएगा, एंड यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट मेंशनिंग इट, बट इट्स योर पर्सपेक्टिव विच इज करेक्ट। So don't worry on that part.
टॉपिक को लेकर ही आपने, आपका इंप्रेशन मॉडरेटर पे ऐसा गया ही नहीं कि आपने टॉपिक चेंज किया। हाँ, अगर गौरव वो बोल देता मैनुअल वर्सेस ऑटोमेटिक, तो वो होता थोड़ा टॉपिक का चेंज, आपका नहीं गया वो, तो वो होता थोड़ा टॉपिक का चेंज, आपका नहीं।
No, I actually wanted to build upon that by saying that the power of autonomy while driving vehicle is more stronger when you're driving motor vehicles. Like EV has not entered the bike industry at all, and bike industry is such a dominant field in the automobile industry. There's so many bike enthusiast clubs, there's so many ride going events that occur throughout months every year. So that is a automobile industry component that hasn't been touched by EV at all, and EV doesn't even appeal to them. That's even more concerning. So if EV does wish to
touch the two-wheeler on that, yes,
exactly. मैं आपके पास बहुत अच्छे पॉइंटर्स है, आपको थोड़ा वो दिखाना होगा।
It's a very new thought process. I really appreciate this. In fact, ये मैंने खुद नहीं सोचा था अभी। You brought this point. Excellent. But लाओ ना, put forward तो करो, because see again, two-wheeler में क्या प्रॉब्लम आएगी? Very low range. सब्सिडी ड्राइव ही कर सकते हो 1 बार 2 बार। आपको कोई ड्राइविंग एंथुसियास्ट चाहिए, लद्दाख जाना है तो EV से तो नहीं जा सकते भाई। लद्दाख जाना है तो EV से तो नहीं जा सकते भाई।
Actually, there is this bike, ultra wide. No, I mean there are bikes, yes, but it doesn't appeal to bike enthusiasts. Because I have two.
Great point.
Yeah.
Put it forward. Okay. On time.
Correct.
वही फीडबैक था आपको।
Yes, sir.
So good job done, team.
All the best. Thank you.